Okay, Kate, I think we will make a start if that's okay.
Okay.
All right, super. So good morning, everybody. Everybody that's joined, thank you for doing so. This is the latest in a series of live stream panel discussions that we've done over the last 9 months. The objective of which really is just to bring together panels of experts from right across the industry to share with you their advice and guidance and experience in terms of what they've been doing within their businesses to respond to the various challenges posed by obviously the coronavirus situation. In today's webinar, we'll be reflecting a bit on the role that technology has played in ensuring that hotels continue to meet the evolving needs of their guests, and just importantly, allow them to operate efficiently and safely. But we'll also be spending some time looking forward and discussing what the panel believe are the essential considerations that hoteliers need to be making now to ensure that they don't miss out on the opportunity that a staycation bounce offers us, both this year and indeed beyond. I was lucky enough on Monday to sort of do a bit of a run through. So I've seen some of the things that we're going to be talking about, and I'm pretty sure there are things in here that you're not going to want to miss. So if you can stick around until the end, then please do. If you can't, don't worry, we're going to record the session and we will make it available to be downloaded afterwards. So if you can't stay for the whole session, which is going to run for about 60 minutes, and you need to drop off, then I'll show you where you can get the link to download this and watch back at your convenience. Quick introductions. My name's James Cannon. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Guestline. I'm going to be hosting the event, and I'm delighted to be joined by the panel, whose bios you can see briefly on the screen there. But let me just do a couple of quick introductions. So we've got Sally Richards, who's the Managing Director of Raspberry Sky. Sally co-founded Raspberry Sky about 15 years ago, and it's now one of the real go-to hospitality consultants, not just here in the UK, but across Europe as well. And I know that Sally's worked with a real cross-section of hotels, different sizes, hostels, service departments, worked with the OTAs, GDS, tour operators. So really does bring a wealth of experience, breadth and depth of experience to share with us today. So delighted that Sally's joining us. Next, we've got Richard Palmer. So Richard's the Managing Director of the Devonshire Hotels, which operates hotels, pubs, holiday cottages up at the Chatsworth and Bolton Abbey estate. And their portfolio is a mix of Red Star hotels, 5-star inns, boutique hotels, and spa. So again, a real, real mixture. Richard started at the Devonshire back in 2000. Not sure he'll thank me for that, and has worked his way right up to the role that he's in now. So again, he's bringing a wealth of experience and knowledge, which he's pleased to be sharing with us today. Craig Ewan of the Kingsmill Hotel. Craig described himself as a passionate hotel general manager. Again, gained vast experience working with various hotel companies right across the UK, and says that since he returned to Inverness, which he describes as home back in 2006, he's been involved in shaping the Kingsmills Hotel and develop and expand in his role of the operations director. And finally, Vicky Jackson from the luxury Gisborough Hall Hotel in Yorkshire. Again, Vicky's got a wealth of experience, worked in a number of brands, including Marriott, GLH, Jury's Inn Hotel Group, lots of different roles, both front desk, sales, operations. And for the last 4 years, Vicky's been at the luxury Gisborough Hall in Yorkshire, where she's the deputy hotel manager. So we've got a lot of topics that we want to try and cover. I want to try and make sure that we've got time for everything. So we're going to jump straight in. Just before I do, if you can, please keep your camera switched off. We'll leave the sort of humorous kitten, not the panel, by the way. You keep your cameras on, but everyone else, if you can keep your cameras off, we'll leave the humorous kitten filters to the legal profession for anybody who saw the news this morning. Leave your microphones muted. If you've got any questions, there is a question button at the bottom of the screen. We'll perhaps get to them as we go through, or if we don't get time, or if it's not sort of convenient to do so, we will definitely answer those afterwards. So this is going to be structured as a bit of a Q&A. It's very much a discussion. Richard, perhaps I can come to you first and just ask, what are some of the changes that you've observed in guest behaviours and requirements? And which of these do you think are permanent and which maybe will revert back to, the old normal?
Yeah, I think it was strange to be this time last year talking about a marketing strategy that would include how you clean a bedroom and telling customers how that you're going to clean your rooms and reassuring customers. So I think that was something that had to change straight away. And bizarrely for hotels, they're very clean places, so it was more just around telling customers what we already did. I think the customer is looking for that reassurance, and I think that will continue. I think we found that flexibility has been key. Customers are looking for not only security in their booking, but knowing that their deposits are safe and that there is flexibility within their booking window. And I think that will continue into this coming year. And I think the elements of that will become the new norm. We might not possibly be talking about how much we clean bedrooms and how much we sanitize door handles in the future, but I think the customer is changing in what they see as the new normal. So flexible booking, possibly not 100% prepaid rates. They're looking for some more flexibility from us as operators.
Thanks, Richard. And Craig, would you echo some of those or some of your own observations?
Very much so. We spent a lot of time before we opened last time in terms of writing our own safely sound procedure. And I think one of the key things to that is actually having the detail, but then actually doing a good marketing of that to give these customers the assurance before they even arrive at the hotel. And then what we've done is we've then followed the branding of that safely sound, giving them reassurances while they're here that all those are taken care of.
Thank you. And Vicky, some of your experiences?
I think that we've seen an increase in direct bookings. I think the guests are looking for reassurance. So, very much we're getting a lot of telephone calls. Perhaps those guests that typically might have booked on web or on an OTA are actually wanting to speak to us at the hotel and understand what our policies are, which has been great. It's given us quite a good opportunity to increase our sleeper diner ratio, which is already pretty high at Guestline Hall. But I think the reassurance of the cleanliness in the hotel makes people actually want to stay in and dine with us of an evening.
So presumably that had a sort of an impact operationally. That was probably a cost to you, processing all those telephone inquiries. But you've managed to sort of offset some of that cost with upsell. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it was very, very draining of resources right at the beginning when we opened after the first lockdown back in July. And, for a lot of our staff, they'd been off on furlough for, 4 or 5 months. So to come back and it be quite sort of intense with phone calls, and those phone calls could be quite long as well, with people wanting to go into the nitty gritty of what we were really doing with hand sanitizer and cleanliness and things like that. But it definitely gave us the opportunity to upsell and get the extra few pounds that we needed after lockdown, really.
Absolutely. And finally, Sally, your perspective on how the behaviours have changed and how things have changed?
Yeah, I think just reinforcing what the panel has said, people are wanting to book direct at the moment, which means, your brand.com website is as critical a channel as it's ever been, so it's really important that you have the best experience on your own brand website. But obviously staycation market has become a new buzzword, and I think it's here for this year as well. But one of the things I am hearing from the clients that I work with is we have this new sector of the reluctant vacationer. So the segment of people that are used to traveling overseas and enjoy the sunshine and something which may be perceived more exotic, are vacationing in the UK and are a bit reluctant at that. So I think we're finding that, from a customer service perspective and being able to deliver on expectations can be somewhat challenging sometimes. But the other area, I guess, is something that we call the second wallet. And I know we spoke about this the other day, is that, when people are shopping online and they're booking their accommodation, they then do have this second wallet that, pre-arrival, if there is some good communication and some upsell opportunities, that they see an opportunity to spend more money. So I think there's a huge upsell opportunity available.
Before we move on, I saw a number of the panel sort of nodding and acknowledging. Do anybody want to sort of comment on some of the things Sally just said there?
I mean, in terms of the comments on the second wallet, can absolutely relate to that from our, and also it just reinforces that in terms of the people that are really happy just to be away and be on holiday. So for example, you walk through the lounge at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and you're seeing people drinking cocktails. It's like, yeah.
I've already had several this morning. Great. That's really good. Thank you, everybody. And if we now just sort of think about some of the sort of new technical innovations that you've employed over the last sort of 12 months. Maybe Craig, I can start with you. Some of the things that you did in response to what happened last year of COVID.
Sure. In terms of following on, in terms of giving that reassurance, we wanted to put in place an online check-in. So we've done that by your partners that you'd introduced us. So we have that set up. We actually do a call with all of our customers the day before, and we make sure that they have checked in online. If we haven't, we encourage them to check in online, including the payment. So then when they actually arrive, they're then given a text is automated and comes out on the morning of arrival. They then show that to our concierge in the car park, so they're not even having to come into the reception. And then the concierge are carrying their keys in welcome packs and to the direction of where they're best to park their car and access the hotel. In the morning of departure, they're sent to their device, whether it's their phone or their computer, and they can then check their bill. If they agree with their bill being correct, they can press the green button, and then they're just sent a receipt of their credit card transaction. So they don't have to come back to reception either. So just cutting down all the touch points throughout the transaction. That's one of the things that we've done over the time.
Thanks, Craig. Richard, some things that you've done.
Yeah, much the same as Craig, really. We launched an app so that we could remove the guest directories. And we really wanted to use that as a sort of signposting for all information. So that's directly linked to our Wi-Fi landing page. We also put forward Google check-in forms so that pre-arrival questionnaires could be completed prior to the customer arriving, and offered a number of contactless options for customers. But actually, we found that a lot of our customer profile had made their decision to come out and were still happy with having a fairly normal experience. So still happy touching menus, still happy coming to reception to check in and check out. Whilst the offer was there for more of a contactless option, a digital option, we did find that a vast majority of our customers still had what you would call a semi-normal experience.
Thanks, Richard. And finally, Vicky, perspective from yourselves?
Yeah, we looked at some different options as we were reopening last year, and due to our market mix and our guests being a little bit older, we made a decision that we would leave it as is for the time being and just see how that went. And actually, as Craig's already mentioned, it went down really well, just that there was a little bit of normality. We had lots of procedures in place that we asked questions about. If you don't want us to come and put tea and coffee on your breakfast table, then we can, arrange to put it next to you and you can take it yourself. And not one single guest took that option up. They all came to us for that experience and for that service.
So it really sounds like it's about finding the right blend of technology and operational changes and it's going to be different probably for every hotel based on the typical profile of your guests. Yeah. Next thing I wanted to come on to was just if you explored any sort of new revenue streams, and the example that pops into mind is around F&B, takeaway, meals, that sort of thing. And Richard, I think you've got some interesting story to share here.
Yeah, we've tried a couple of things actually. So in the summer, we opened up a pop-up restaurant at Demonstrance, Bolton Abbey, the Lauren Perrier Champagne and Seafood tent, and that worked really well. We did actually have a reasonable summer, so we managed to open that on quite a few days. Really catered towards the customer wanting to feel safe dining outside, but also another new offer for us as a business. And we saw 50% revenue increases for the brasserie, that side of the hotel in August and September. So really pleased with that. And then we've continued with our meal boxes, which have been a real success. So Valentine's, we're sending out 352 boxes across the UK. New Year's Eve, we did 215 beef Wellingtons, which I think the chef regretted after he wrote the menu. Didn't probably quite realise he'd be doing so many. And that's been a real success for us. Great revenue stream, keeps some of the team busy, but also keeps our customer profile engaged. We are seeing that between 18 and 20% of our trade is new customers. So we are engaging with new customers, not just our existing database.
And just out of curiosity, is that something that you'd see carrying on, even when we get beyond COVID?
Well, we'd like to think so. And interesting enough, yesterday we actually had an inquiry for one of our holiday cottages for six boxes for their stay. So actually, yeah, I think I do see it carrying on. I think it sort of sits nicely in that takeaway marketplace. It's a bit fun. It's a bit nicer. You get to try restaurant quality food at home. It's another slight variation to the HelloFreshes of this world. So I think it's here to stay. With whether we'll be doing on average 100, 150 a week, I'm not sure, but I think it is here to stay.
Fantastic. And Craig, if I come to you, same sort of question.
Sure. When we were allowed to open 15th of July, I think it was, in Scotland, the licensing laws didn't allow us to sell alcohol indoors at the time for any of our restaurants. So what we did is some outdoor restaurants, and we invested in some stretch tents. So one of our properties we had 4, and another property we had 2 of the stretch tents. And we operated restaurants very successfully. Going back to the point of the sleeper diner ratio, the sleeper diner ratio was much, much higher than normal. Normally we'd be sitting about 50%, 55%. And I think we were up to about 85%, in some cases nearly 90%. So by operating these outside restaurants and the stretch tents worked really well for us. As the restrictions eased last, people were able to drink inside. Still found there was a demand for having these restaurants outside. So we operated all the way up to December there with outside restaurants. So I think it was a feeling of the security and the share and a little bit of value as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Craig. There was actually a question that came in, Craig, which related to the the automated check-in, check-out that you described a moment ago. So for the person that asked the question, we'll make sure that we post details of the partner that Craig used, and also, just to be fair, other partners that provide similar services. So we'll post that at the end of this so that everybody's got that information.
Sure.
Next thing, look, to be honest, we've actually been quite surprised at Guestline how many hotels have actually chosen the last 12 months to change their PMS systems. I suppose it has been surprising. We didn't think there was going to be quite so many people looking to do it. I just wonder if the panel can sort of suggest any reasons why we might be seeing these sustained volumes of hotels making these big decisions to make big investments at this time. Sally, perhaps you can shed some light on this for us.
Yeah, sure. I think COVID and the need for a digital journey in terms of contactless payment and communication on property has made people think about the fact that they need to move to a cloud-based property management system. So I think that's been fundamental in looking at their technology stack. Quite often the systems that they're using, if they're independent properties, may not be sophisticated enough. In other cases, they may be on hosted solutions, which are quite legacy. So sometimes you'll find that the new sort of cloud-based systems are more sophisticated and they have commercial benefits as well. So I think that's been a motivation. I think the digital guest journey, we've been talking about that for a long time, but I think COVID highlighted this, and it made organizations look at how quickly they could implement a solution. And sometimes that's had to be, putting together 2 or 3 systems to make up the journey rather than, a consistent vendor. But integration into systems is becoming more and more important now. So, the PMS being open API, being able to integrate third-party systems. I think all of these things, as they've come into looking at how they will support the new customer journey, has started people really thinking about, well, is my system fit for purpose? And if not, you know, what other options are out there, and taking the opportunity to look at that both from a guest touch point, but also back of house as well, and in terms of how I can improve my efficiencies. So I think that's been a motivator, and that COVID has been a catalyst for that.
Okay, thanks. And Vicky, do you want to just share just your thoughts on that, and perhaps just for the people that are listening, just to, you know, why it's so pertinent a question to pose to you?
Yeah, certainly. So we actually went live with Guestline on the 20th of January. So the full experience is very fresh in my mind. And I think one thing that's for sure, that lockdown did give us plenty of time to look at things. We've been really lucky in that we've had a core team in the hotel for both of the lockdowns. So we have looked in depth at areas of our business that we can improve, that will benefit very much our guests, but also our team. We've looked at cost lines as well, and looked at where we could make savings, and moving from our previous supplier to Guestline was actually a saving for us. We were so unhappy with our previous PMS system, and really their lack of support and understanding of an independent hotel. It was kind of a legacy. We left McDonald Hotels 4 years ago and decided to stay with the same supplier to avoid too many new systems within the transition to independence. But yeah, we knew this was the right time to move. We've been talking about it for 18 months, and it was that opportunity to actually do it rather than just talking about it, really.
Interesting, thanks. And Richard, not that you've changed your PMS recently, but just your thoughts on, you know, why hoteliers are sort of choosing this time to review their technology and operations, of course, as well.
Well, exactly what Vicky said, really. I think it's a perfect opportunity to literally go through every line and not have the day-to-day disturbing you. So management having the time to actually look at every area, critique. I think in terms of PMS, I think people are pushing for that joined up process that Sally mentioned. You know, if you look at your customer journey on the high street, it's very sophisticated, it's very simple, it's very aligned, it's very easy for that online customer, and I think that's what we're all pushing to try and achieve and mimic. I think hospitality is quite a long way behind the high street online retailers. So certainly from our perspective, that's something that we're looking as our vision to try and get to, that one-stop shop so that everything can be traded online. Because one thing that has come, whilst there will always be the customers within our customer profile that want to pick up the phone and have a conversation with the team, because the team know them, they almost know which room they want to be in and where they're going to dine, etc. There is always an emerging customer that wants to just book really quickly online, book it, get the table booked, get the spa treatments booked, pay with the gift voucher that they've received, done, move on. And I think we need to make sure that our platforms allow that in an efficient way, which will then lead to us being able to get back to putting more people into giving good hospitality, making the back of house systems more efficient so that we can focus on the customer.
I think actually going to that point as well, it's kind of like, sorry if I may, that the technology is an enabler, you know, and it's about giving the customer choice, and it's about, you know, being able to support customers who want to automate their experience and those that want the high human touch point, and that's okay. But as a hotel, you should be able to support whichever journey the customer wants to take in the most frictionless way possible, because the one thing that's really precious that we know now is people's time. And, you know, it doesn't happen in some of the lovely hotels that we're represented here today, but a city centre hotel with 300 rooms and you have to queue for 10 minutes to check in is nobody's best experience. So if you can do that through an app online and get your key and off you go, then why wouldn't you? You know, so I think it's horses for courses, depends on the type of property, but I think it's our obligation to put things in place so that customers have choice.
Yeah, again, I think everybody agreeing to that point. It's about giving that choice, and it's about trying to release as much time as possible, so that time can be used for things that are actually enhancing the experience, the guest experience, rather than some of those mundane things that we, you know, could otherwise be doing. And Sally, if again, I'm going to come back to you on this one. So if we think about the normal process that a hotel would go through when they consider changing a PMS or any other, you know, kind of critical business system, you know, there's normally a team formed within the hotel, lots of stakeholders from different areas, and it can be quite a drawn out process. If a hotel or a hotel owner or operator knows in their heart of hearts that their current system is not going to do it for them this year, but they haven't got their normal team around them right now, what advice would you give to them on how to sort of move forward, how to make the right decisions in this difficult time?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, and I think and I'm not pointing fingers at you, James, here at all, but with the vendors have got great sales pitches, and we've all been there. I've sat in many vendor presentations, and frankly the PMS can make the tea, so I think what's really important is that if you're looking at whatever system that you're looking at, is that you put together your business requirements and you engage with all areas of the business, anyone who touches that system or takes data and reports from that system, and develop a list of requirements in an Excel spreadsheet. And then once you've done that as a team, you go through and you say, okay, what is absolutely critical? What can we not live without, and mark those off, and what's important and what's a nice to have. And make sure that you future-proof it. So you're not just buying a system to plug a legacy gap today, but think about what do we want it to do in the next 3 to 5 years? And then, send that off to potential vendors and ask them to provide, feedback on, do they support that? Is that existing functionality? Is it something that's, in development? Is it on the roadmap, etc.? And then make a really informed decision before you start engaging with vendors to come in for presentations, because then based on their response, you can validate where the gaps are and things that are really important to you, and really understand if that capability exists, and do the show me all my critical elements, and speak and get testimonials from customers that are working with them today. So I think it's just about documenting it, stepping back, and not being taken by the sales pitch.
Good advice. Very good advice. And Vicky, you've been through this, just recently. Is that similar to what you did, or did you have a different experience?
No, it was very, very similar actually. And in some respects on this occasion, it was almost easier having less people around to make that decision with us, as long as myself, front office, finance, and a couple of the other big key players were happy with the system that we were going with, then we kind of ticked that box. I think there was a lot to do with gut instinct as well. When you meet somebody and then you kind of chat around a few of the other people who are involved in a company, and you think, I think this is where we need to be. This is a company that I really want to work with, and chats with fellow hoteliers. We all do it. We all know somebody that's got a different system, and as we always say, word of mouth goes a really, really long way within our industry and within any industry really.
Thanks, Vicky. Richard, comments from yourself?
I completely agree with Sally. James, you'll hate us for saying this, but there are some great salespeople out there, and they're very good at telling us what we think we need, when actually we are the operators. We know particularly in the independent sector, it's all very different. Every property is slightly unique, and I think we know our businesses, we know what we need that will work in our business and go out to market. I think the only thing is making sure that you don't take what is a legacy process workaround into your new system, because we've always done it that way. Be prepared to challenge some of your internal processes with the chosen supplier, because the chosen supplier works with countless operations, and be open to saying, well, yeah, okay, I might have done it that way for 5 years, but actually we could do it this way and it's much more efficient.
Sally, any comment? I saw you sort of nodded there about the whole be open to change your process if the old process is not fit for purpose, I guess.
Yeah, I think Richard's spot on there. I think we see it often whereby, there's the investment in new technology, and then the operational team will spend forever trying to backfill their existing processes, their legacy processes, into the new piece of kit, so that it can operate in exactly the same way as the old system did. And I think it's a real cultural change, and I think it's a change management process to get people to think differently, to get people to think about, can the check-in process be different? Do we still need those paper drop files? Can we not automate, etc.? So, and I think it goes across the business. So re-engineering your business processes to support the new system and to transition your business into the 21st century is something that is easy to say but really difficult to do. But it's really important, because unless you do that, you will never get the bang for buck that you have been sold or anticipated with a new system. Because if you put all the legacy processes in place, you will, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Yeah. So you need to bite the bullet, approach it with new, fresh eyes, and see how you can transform your business. So yes, it's a challenge with any new system implementation.
Thanks, Sally. And finally, Craig, any comments from yourself on that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this hotel here, we were previously a Marriott branded hotel. We inherited what was perceived to be the market leader in PMS at the time. Once the Marriott brand was gone, the lack of support that we received as an independent was appalling. So that was probably my biggest reason for going to the market to find a new system. We all branch out and have one reservations office for more than one hotel. So going with Guestline, it gave us that flexibility. It wasn't as sophisticated in some areas, but it gave us much more flexibility in others. And a big one for me as well was that we didn't have the capital outlay, because we were able to use the SaaS model, paying for the system on a monthly. It works very well for us.
Yeah, it's a good point that you raise, and you can imagine that from our perspective, the hotels that have switched, it's vitally important that cash stays within the hotel right now, you know, more so than any other time. So we've obviously had to change our approach, and as you said, Craig, we offer any hotel, you know, SaaS commercial models instead of the old, you know, sort of legacy sort of license fee model, and we've had to, and it's the right thing for us to do. So I'm glad that you were able to benefit from that.
Sure.
Something else which you know comes up is, okay, so we've decided that we're going to change our system, and normally as part of that process you would go through the training of your staff. But again, of course, a lot of our staff are either, you know, furloughed or not available at you know, as much as they had been before. So any advice and tips and guidance about how to overcome that? And again, Vicky, sorry, I'm picking on you, but you have the sort of most freshest experience of this, so maybe you can start by answering that one.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, all of the training was completed remotely by the Guestline trainer, who was a fabulous guy called Chris. He was sat in his house in Liverpool, whilst myself and a small team were based at the hotel. On the key dates that I needed more of the team back in, we offered them the opportunity to either do it from home or to actually come into the hotel, and had them socially distanced training. Strangely, they all wanted to come into the hotel, and I think that they just craved a little bit of normal hotel life. I think they'd missed being in the building and engaging their brain, which actually it was quite difficult to begin with. You know, these people hadn't done much with their brain for a few weeks, so getting them back into the swing of it, it did take a little bit of time. But yeah, I mean, it worked absolutely brilliantly. Obviously, the hotel's still closed at the moment, so we've made a point of doing refresher training. Once we'd done our training, we've put together a training plan so that when the team do come back in, we've got that refresher training to go through with them straight away. Because obviously they haven't used the system very much. I had a live load team, so they're quite familiar with it, but they've gone back off on furlough now. So I think the reopening and the support that we then offer them at that point is going to be key to it being a true success, really.
Thanks, Vicky. And Richard, again, not necessarily just from a PMS perspective, but kind of that whole training and that staff, you know, sort of evolution. Comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, online training has become the new norm, really. We're using a lot of it for compliance training, but also we've done more proactive training. And I think because we're spread across 2 different estates, I think it's certainly something that we will be making more use of moving forward. It's a great tool. I don't think at this stage it's quite got to being 100% as what it would be in a classroom, but I think given the current situation, restrictions, etc., I think it's nearly there, and I think it will evolve and probably become just as good as a classroom, if not maybe even better, because it's more efficient. So I see that will definitely stay for the future.
Okay, thanks. A question which, sorry, Craig, yeah.
James, just to add to that, I think also another benefit to it is also by changing over just now whilst the business is in lockdown, is we weren't, when we changed over, encouraged by the guest to do the integration manually, because that would actually reinforce the training of the individuals. And they were absolutely right. We did do that, but we transferred manually 24,000 reservations across. So obviously, whilst we're in lockdown, the occupancy and the number of rooms on the books are, so it's going to be much, much easier to do with less reservations.
So perversely, despite everything that's going on, it actually might be a very good time to do that change that, as you said, Vicky, you've been talking about for 18 months. Well,
I've done 2 transitions previously in a previous job as I've changed company from one company to another and live loaded numbers of reservations as similar as that. So to do it this time, although quite heart-wrenching to not have as much business on the books as you would like to, absolutely it is a lot easier. And also with the advanced C&B piece, which obviously covers our weddings and events, again, you know, they're sort of a smaller level than what they would normally be with dates ever moving. So yeah, it's been a good time in that respect.
There was a question came in, which Sally, if you don't mind, I'll put to you. Somebody asked, okay, so if this is a good time to review their PMS, should they also renew their other technology stack at the same time? Forgive me, it's a sort of question that's come out of the blue, but maybe you can give some thought on that.
You know, what I think is a really good idea is to sit down and take a blank sheet of paper and look at your whole technology stack and write a box for everything you have. So whether it's revenue management, central res, it's a PMS, it's a point of sale, it's a finance system, it's a SPA system, a CRM, whatever, and just have a look at it and understand what connects with what. And you know, is it a manual process? Is it an export? Is it a one-way interface? Is it a two-way interface? And then look about what is it your strategy? What is it you want to achieve from a customer journey or an operational efficiency perspective? And think, is this technical stack the best it can be for where I want to go? So you don't need to renew everything, but what has to be the driving force is interface systems. Yeah, so efficiency will be achieved through interfacing. Double entry will cause, you know, additional resources and data entry challenges. So, you know, in terms of points of failure. So what you ultimately want to get to is a totally interfaced technical stack. And if you don't have that, then yes, you need to look at, can the existing vendor support what you need? Maybe they've already got an interface, but you've not put it in place. So maybe there's an opportunity there just to improve the interoperability. But if they don't, then yes, then you should look at what alternatives are out there. And many hoteliers work with the best of breed solution, so it doesn't have to be one vendor for everything. It can be best of breed, you know, components. But I think just stopping and looking at what you have today and drawing it on a piece of paper, and then circling, saying, well, maybe this is not next generation, or this holds us back in delivering and delighting the customer, or in terms of being really labor intensive, then yes, look at it. But don't assume because you're changing the PMS, you need to change everything else, because you may not have to.
Okay, but use the opportunity to at least review it, just ask yourself some questions and be comfortable that you've got the right technologies and integrations to move it forward.
I mean, before we do any work, the first thing that we do with any of our clients is we draw their technology stack. We get a visual, we do a Visio, and we say, right, tell us all your bits of kit, you know, all your commercial systems, your finance, you know, show us everything, right, and what connects and what doesn't. And actually, if you can map out the system, what we call the systems landscape, actually that's your starting point to say, okay, where are the points of failure? Where is the lack of automation? Where can we improve that to make sure that you're getting the best bang for buck out of the systems and you're able to achieve your, you know, your customer strategy and your internal operational efficiency strategy. So draw it first, because it really helps to visualize, you know, and then when you're sharing it with key stakeholders and decision makers, it's a lot easier for people to understand. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ali. Okay. We've sort of touched on this a bit, but I'm going to come back to it, and it's, you know, I'm going to call it the elephant in the room. So we are, you know, making some recommendations to hoteliers to carry out a review of their technology, carry out a review of their operational procedures. And some of these things are going to require investment, not necessarily upfront investment, but an investment all the same. So, again, how would you sort of square that circle, Richard? If you were a hotelier faced with that situation, what would you be thinking about, justifying that investment right now?
I think it's looking about what it's going to do to improve our back of house efficiencies, customer journeys, etc. And I think for us that are fairly well on our system journey, it's almost going back to those existing providers and seeing what they can do first. Change requires a big investment of time, which Vicky's just finished, but it's what the existing providers can do and what their development pipeline looks like. You can end up with lots and lots of different systems, and I think it's easier if you try and consolidate that as much as you can, to keep it quite niche and quite narrow, and work with that provider in a partnership to try and help move forward development with the existing system.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. And Vicky, you must have gone through this as part of your process and that decision-making process. What sort of things were you considering about the investment that you were going to make, both in financial terms, as Richard quite rightly points out, the investment of time as well?
I don't think any of us knew what 2020 and the beginning of 2021 had in store for us. So I think it's been a really interesting learning curve for everybody, actually. And I think it's made us realise how important our guests and our team are to us. Leaving our team with a system that was slow and forever failing, and watching them try and not be frustrated to a guest is really not a good place to be in as a 4-star luxury hotel. And check-in shouldn't take 15 minutes. Just because the system's not working, and you can see that lack of eye contact and the lack of engagement with the guests because you're so caught up in a system that just is failing you, really. So I think to have a system which is slick and quick and supports everybody's efficiency and effectiveness removes so much frustration within the team that I think even that element of it is worth the investment that we've put in, really.
It's a really good point, and one that we've perhaps not spoken too much about, but the the impact on our staff during these times, and there are probably going to be a number of hotels who are operating with less members of staff, so they need to be as efficient as they possibly can, so as their service levels don't suffer as a consequence.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so we're sort of moving down to the last couple of questions now. We all hope, of course, that 2021 is going to be a great opportunity to, welcome lots of domestic guests, people that perhaps we haven't seen before, haven't stayed in our hotels before, maybe to Sally's earlier point, some of these reluctant guests. So the question, how do we make sure that, we delight them this year and we get them coming back, year after year? So this isn't just a boom year, but it's something which sets us up for the future as well. And Richard, maybe you can comment.
Well, I mean, something that we're looking at from our perspective is that it's a great marketing campaign. All of these individuals that possibly wouldn't choose to stay in the UK are having to stay in the UK, and as an acquisition, what a great opportunity. So we're looking at it as a really, not only a commercial opportunity for this year, but also engaging with that customer for the future. So put simply, make sure the customer enjoys the experience and they'll come back, and really focus on that customer. And whilst you might not get them again for a 4-night staycation supplement, you might get them for an anniversary weekend, a birthday weekend, etc. And making sure that we get their data, making sure that's clear, correct, and then we can engage with that customer in the future.
Thank you. And something we spoke about on Monday when we spoke was, if you go abroad, depending on where you go, you can sometimes almost guarantee you're going to get good weather. The same can't always be said for the UK. So how important is it to be engaging with local tourism bodies and other local businesses to ensure that it's not just the fabulous experience they get at the hotel, but it's also the surrounding areas as well?
I think that's key, James. It's something that we're working on. We're lucky we are on two great estates, but there is so much to do away from the estates. activities that people would normally do on holiday, there are lots of those that are already going on in the Peak District and in the Yorkshire Dales. I think for us, what we're looking at now is how we can bring that and join up in a partnership so that we can sell that story to our customers so that they can see how much there is to do in the area. Those customers that Sally mentioned before, they've not got an awful lot of time. They like an abroad holiday because it kind of sets it all out for them. It's all in one location. Well, we need to be able to replicate that within our local areas for those customers.
Thanks, Richard. And Craig, you sort of your views on this, and how do you get those guests coming back year after year?
Yeah, I mean, following on with the attractions, we've always worked very, very closely with the attractions being predominantly a leisure hotel and having so many of them on our doorstep. But I think initially when we open up, there will be in a tier system again, and maybe some of these operators won't be open at that stage or won't be allowed to open at that stage. It's actually coming up from a hotel point of view, coming up with our own, which are maybe not so much of actual things, but maybe actually even just taking loops, so they're actually doing their own visiting of the area in their cars, and actually the hotel providing a packed lunch so that they're away for the day, but not necessarily actually doing an activity. A fantastic day with some great stop to taking the scenery and taking the views. And it's been covered already. It's about making sure that we try and convert these customers to be direct customers of the hotel, and we've got their data for future marketing too.
Thanks, Craig. And Vicky, I'm guessing you'd agree with much of what's been said?
Yeah, absolutely. We continue with our direct communications. We've got a very loyal guest database that we work quite closely with at Guestline Hall, and it was interesting to see that some of our regular guests, even though I think we only ended up being open for 3.5, 4 months from July through till November, some of those guests were on their third or fourth visit with us, trying to get in a full year's worth of visits in a very small time, which is wonderful. I think the one thing that we saw last year more in the summer than we normally would is children, which is always nice. And because we didn't really have any weddings, we had more space available, so it was a little bit more utilising conservatory and glasshouse space for the kids and having some board games out and things like that. So if it was a wet day, there was something for them to do. And the other thing that we found, obviously, which I'm sure that the rest of the panel will agree with, is that the length of stay was so much longer from our guests, which is brilliant. It means one check out, one check in, but maybe it's a 3, 4, 5, 7 night stay. All helps with housekeeping and the sort of routine of them coming down for breakfast, how breakfast works in the new norm, how dinner works, and getting to know the team a little bit better, which was great to see.
Thanks, Vicky. And Sally, again, I know when we spoke earlier in the week, you were sort of talking about the importance of alignment between the CRM, the CRS. You want to just sort of maybe comment on that?
Yeah, I think what we know as hoteliers will know that there are certain touch points in the hotel, and actually there's a lot of data, a lot of information that about clients. But actually seeing that in a single view, having that rolled up into a profile, a single entity, is really challenging. So I think what we as an industry we need to get away from, and I definitely think we're getting better at this, is this one size fits all kind of email blast. Everybody gets the same kind of promotion or offer, whether you've wanted it or not or whatever. So I think it's about being creative. I think it's about a level of personalization. It's certainly not one-on-one, but there's types of communication that suit one demographic better than another. And I think it's about being creative, being smart in the comms that you do. And from a customer perspective, it's got to be relevant, so we're all fed up of getting email blasts in our inbox, and quite frankly, we quite often don't even open them. It's delete, 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 delete. So it's about getting the timing right. It's about getting the message right, and really thinking about how we communicate. And, as we move forward, it potentially is more than just communicating via email. It's communicating on a WhatsApp message, or do you know what I mean? There are different ways that people want to engage these days, but I think a CRM is becoming more and more important, and that feed from the PMS into the CRM is pretty key, so that you've got one view of the customer and you can then decide how you're going to segment that, what messages and how you're going to communicate, etc. So I think it's about being creative. I think there's some great ideas here today. I mean, all that outdoor dining and, you know, the meal boxes and the, you know, the local attractions and putting that together and, you know, offering something creative. And, you know, to Vicky's point, we've got wet day experiences, you know, for children, and it's selling the experience. I think, you know, we're getting better at that, but I think we could improve it.
Thanks, Sally. The time has flown by. We're nearing the end of the session. We probably could talk an awful lot longer, but maybe if I can just sort of go around the panel once more and just any sort of final thoughts, any tips and hints and suggestions, any sort of things that you're going to be trying through 2021 that you can share with the people listening. And Richard, you just happen to be in the top left of my screen, so I'll come to you first if that's okay.
So I think from our perspective, I think we're all in the same place that I think it's going to be another good staycation year. And I think we found last year quite a challenge to go from nothing to opening up to being very busy. So I think this year that won't be any different, but all the COVID protocols are in, all the training's being done for us, so it's just a refresher. So I think that should make the opening a little easier. I think for us, it's really just about capitalising on it and making the most of it. And hopefully it carries on through all the way through until early next year. For us, capacity becomes a bit of a challenge, so we are expanding into different areas. You know, we've turned function rooms into extensions of restaurants. We've done pop-up tents, which are now expanding down into Derbyshire as well. I think it's just looking with fresh eyes now and just going, what could we do? What could we try? And that's certainly what we're working on at the moment. I think there'll be an awful lot of additional accommodation provision, be it a farmer's field with a tent and a cold water tap and a portaloo, through to pop-up yurts dotted around, etc. So I think those of us that are operating restaurants with a non-resident portfolio, I think we'll see a good season as well. I think there'll be a lot more people looking for holiday cottages, camping provision, etc. So I think the tourist hotspots will do well.
Excellent. A nice positive outlook, which is good. Craig, for yourself, your thoughts?
Yeah, just a few points there. I think I really agree with you earlier on about the different digital tools that we've got available, and making sure that we, with caution, we don't buy too many of them too quickly, because it makes it difficult to manage. And actually seeing what some of the companies can offer, because they're diverse themselves. If you've got it makes life easier. Going forward, again, gearing up for a busy season. We talked about the outdoor restaurants that we've done here at our properties. We've made that a permanent feature. We've actually purchased these stretch tents. We were renting them, but we've made a decision to purchase them, and we're going to make them permanent features. And we're now at things like pizza ovens and outdoor permanent features that we're going to be building in the garden. Be the way forward. People want to see that. And from lastly, sort of very specific target marketing, the point that Sally made, and instead of not doing so many general campaigns and looking at who we're trying to attract for a particular market and how we're going to do that.
Thanks, Craig. Vicky?
Very much as Craig and Richard have said, actually, you know, continue to focus on staycation and driving those longer stays. We actually took lockdown one as an opportunity to reposition the hotel from a rate point of view, and that worked really, really well. So I think it will be interesting to get open back up and see how that goes through second booming year of people staying within the UK, really. I think that's about it, really.
Thanks, Vicky. And finally, Sally.
I would say customer is king still, and you know, sell on the experience that you can deliver. Give the customer the choice of how they want to interact with you, you know, is in an automated, non-automated, or a hybrid kind of way, and take this opportunity to look at your technical stack to make sure that you can optimize your customer journey and your back office efficiency.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, look, it only remains for me to say a huge thank you to all of you for giving your time and sharing your thoughts and your experience. I think it's testament to the quality of the content that nearly everybody that started this call is still on this call, and I'm sure those that weren't able to stay on will listen back on the recording. So thank you very, very much on behalf of everybody that you've shared your experiences with. As I said at the start, the session will be recorded. It will be uploaded to, we host a COVID-19 hotelier hub via our Guestline website. So if anybody wants to download recordings of this or any of the previous sessions that we've done, you can get them there. There's also some really, really helpful blogs and checklists. As Richard said, we're going to be opening back up very, very soon. We've been through it a couple of times before. But there are also going to be some things that we're doing for the first time as we open back up that maybe we haven't done for a few months. So if you're unsure about anything, as a Guestline customer, then please visit those pages, because there's some really helpful checklists on there, which we've built with hoteliers to make things as easy as we possibly can. Once again, thank you to everybody. Everybody stay safe, and let's all look forward to a really prosperous 2021. So thanks ever so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye-bye.